Hey there, adventurers. I'm Norwolf. Welcome to my role-playing game realm. I'm going to do something a little different today. I was looking at my various shelves of books and decided to pull down Boot Hill and throw together a quick video, or at least we'll see how quick this ends up being. So Boot Hill, as many of you likely know, is a Western-themed role-playing game designed by Brian Bloom, Gary Gygax, and Don Kay, and was first published in 1975. Third role-playing game, appearing not long after Dungeons & Dragons and Empire of the Petal Throne, and takes its name from Boot Hill, a popular Wild West term for cemetery. So the first edition was printed in 1975. The second edition came out in 1979, and the third edition came out in 1990. The game itself mainly focuses on gunfighting rather than role-playing. The first and second editions were specifically marketed as a miniatures combat game. Even the third edition, most of the rules concern combat resolution with relatively little information about settings and social interactions. And then there was the lethal nature of its combat system that likely limited its appeal with most players. Combat was often short and deadly, so whether your character was in his first gunfight or his 100th, there was a good likelihood of mortality. So, what I thought I'd do today is quickly make up two 3rd edition Boot Hill characters and do a bit of a gunfight between them. Character creation itself is pretty straightforward. The attribute scores consist of strength, coordination, observation, stature, and luck. So strength is a measure of physical power. Coordination measures the manual dexterity, agility, balance, those sorts of things. Observation measures alertness, vigilance, eyesight, and other senses. Stature measures how widely known the character is, how much of a reputation he has, and how physically imposing he is. And then luck is a measure of the character's ability to escape harm from harrowing dangers. Survive a fatal wound, accomplish any other task that has no reason to think possible, etc. Let's throw together the attributes for these guys. I'm not going to use the actual character sheet. Transcribed it over to paper, and that'll be probably good enough for what we're doing with these guys. So, and again, they have three methods of determining characteristics. You basically roll 2d10, add them together, and write them down for each characteristic. Modify that roll by a modifier, so you're never going to end up with a score of 5 or 4 or something for a characteristic. The worst case scenario is you end up with a 6. And you basically roll your 2d10 down the line. That's method 1, the standard method. Method 2 allows you to roll the characteristics and then put them in whatever order you want. And then method 3, you end up rolling the 2d10, adding them together 8 times, and then still keeping them in order of the 8, but you can drop the three characteristics that you want to, or 3 rolls that you want to get rid of. So they give a couple of examples in the book, and you can kind of tailor your character a bit, based on what you're looking for. So you may not be dropping the 3 lowest scores. You may be dropping a certain score in the middle, so that that 17 ends up on strength instead of on coordination. So you may drop the 10. But anyways, we're just going to roll down the line here and see how it goes. So let's start with, let's get this out of the way. Get this over here. Let's see what we get. So our first guy, his name is going to be, Jake. And our second guy is going to be Sam. So strength. First guy is 14. Well, that's the first number anyways. It still gets modified. Ooh, 18. Gonna be a fast one. 9. Stature is going to be 12. Well, the roll there is 12. And luck, 11. And for Sam, we have a 13. Ooh, 19. Wow, he's a fast one too. 8. Not so observant. Stature, 11. And luck, going to be 7. Not the luckiest man around. Okay, so let's modify these scores. So our 14 gets a +2. That becomes a 16. The 18 is not modified. The 9 gets a +3, so that's a 12. And stature of 12 gets a +2, so that becomes a 14. And our luck gets a +2, so that becomes a 13. Now, let's see, for Sam, 13 becomes a 15, 19 gets no change, 8 becomes an 11, 11 becomes a 13, and the 7 becomes a 10. Now, for stature and luck, both those abilities get halved, and it is rounded down, if I remember correctly. Yeah, luck score is divided by 2 and rounded up. Okay, so this becomes a 7, 7. This becomes a 5, and this becomes a 7. So our final scores are 16, 18, 12, 7, 7 for Jake, and 15, 19, 11, 7, 5 for Sam. Hope he never has to do a luck roll. Now, there's a lot of pages spent on talking about how to do combat and skills and all that kind of stuff. I will actually, so the way the way the skills work is depending on your scores will determine how many skill points you get, your initial skills, and only half of those skills can be used for combat skills. So they have 57 skills in the table, 5 of which are combat. Actually, I guess there's 62 skills. 57 are working skills and 5 combat skills. And the combat skills are archery, brawling, knife/sword, pistol, and rifle. So let's quickly just do an add here. So 14, 30, 40, 50, and 15, 34, 45, 57. Oops, 60. So based on that, both these guys have 8 skills. And half of those I can use for weapons. So we're just going to focus on oh, and then I guess the other thing to note about the skills is for the working skills, you roll similar to the characteristics. You roll 2d10, and that's the skill they have in that or the level they have in that skill. Both these guys are going to take fast draw. So let's do our rolls here. So fast draw for Jake is going to be a 17. Wow. And fast draw for Sam is going to be 16. Surprisingly good rolls. Now the way it works for the weapon skills is every time you choose that as a skill, you get level 1 in it. So they will take pistol. And they will also take brawling, just in case I decide to do a brawl between these two guys. and they'll only put 1 point into that, 3 points into pistol, and we'll see how it goes. So each of these guys is going to have a fast draw revolver. Yeah, so that's about that. Now, when we actually get into the combat, there were really two different sorts of gunfights in the Old West. There are two different sorts of turns in Boot Hill game. First sort of gunfight happens when at least one of the characters involved is concerned about getting off the first shot. This usually happens at a range of 20 feet or less. Two or more opponents blaze away at each other with lightning speed, shooting reflexively from the hip. The whole battle could be over in 1 or 2 seconds. This is the sort of battle favored by gunmen, outlaws, and barroom brawlers who like to close in and overwhelm their opponents with an explosion of violence. Aiming is so instinctive in this sort of contest that it's almost irrelevant. The first shot may well be the only one that counts. For this sort of gunfight, a turn is 1 second long, and even this is further divided into 6 counts. A 1 second turn is also called a shootout turn. The second sort of gunfight happens when the shot is not important, but accuracy is. This is usually at range of more than 20 feet. In this fight, the first shot fired doesn't mean a thing. The first shot to find its target will settle the affair, and that shot will be fired by a man who can think coolly as he draws his pistol and aims, unconcerned by the storm of lead, hail blasting harmlessly past him. This is the specialty of a gunfighter, the cold, aloof lawman and legitimate pistolier. For this sort of gunfight, the turn is 6 seconds long. A 6-second turn is also called a combat turn. So basically, when the gunfight begins, the judge decides which type is going to be used. For our little combat here, we are going to go through the shootout, and of course, as with most of these games, there's a sequence, a shootout action sequence. Out of the back of the book here, there's probably the character sheet. They've got maps and whatnot for the area. There's not a lot of detail about what's located in the map. That's kind of left to the referee. Obviously, I've gotten a lot of use out of this map. Honestly, I haven't played Boot Hill in can't even think of how many years. I think the original Boot Hill I played was a 2nd edition. I even have a 2nd edition character sheet here somewhere. Yeah, so I've got 2 brothers, Tex Dayton and Rex Dayton. Tex is obviously the fast draw gunfighter type. Again, they used different characteristics: speed, gun accuracy, etc., strength, bravery. And Rex is the strength dude. He's got a strength of 92 versus the gun accuracy of 94 for his brother. A little hard to read, I'm sure. But anyways, I digress. I guess actually the other thing I'll call out here is the table of contents. So you'll notice it talks about your character creation, talks about gunfights, fist fights, a little bit about the Old West, couple pages, 2 pages on horses, various NPCs, 2 pages on the Western campaign, Tales of Discontinuity, 106. What is that? This gets into coming across strange tracks populated by dinosaurs and cavemen, riding across the wilderness and coming across a smooth black tower, wagon trains disappearing, silent brooding foreigner drifts into town, and people start showing up with their blood drained. So yeah, so basically if you want to stick to more traditional, it basically says here, if you want to stick to more traditional Western, just ignore this section. But get into a couple of adventures. You have the gunfight at the OK Corral and the Battle of Coffeeville with the Dalton gang. And then into some miscellaneous other stuff. So anyways, get back to the combat. Okay, the shootout. So players from each side roll a die 6. Highest roll wins the initiative for the round. So Jake is 1. Sam is a 3. Oh, the other thing I didn't do here is basically the coordination determines your base hit chance. And of course I used up my space here for where I was planning to put that. So hip shot, steady shot, and careful shot. And I guess before I get into the combat, I should actually fill those out. There are 4 types of shots in Boot Hill. There's careful shot, steady shot, hip shot, and fan shot. Careful shot is aimed and fired with the gun at eye level. A steady shot is fired with the gun held still but below eye level. And a hip shot is fired from the hip as soon as the pistol clears the holster or the rifle is cocked. With only instinctive aiming. Fan firing is an even faster form of hip shot or hip shooting. The shooter clamps his finger down on the trigger or just wires it back or even removes it entirely, and then works the hammer with the heel of his other hand. Careful, steady, and hip shots can be fired with any sort of weapon. Only revolvers can be used for fan firing. A careful shot emphasizes accuracy at the expense of speed. A hip shot or fan shot emphasizes speed by sacrificing accuracy. A steady shot is a compromise between speed and accuracy. Characters can fire any sort of shot during the shootout turn, and the chance to hit. So the careful shot uses the full coordination roll or coordination skill. A steady shot is the coordination skill divided by 2 rounded up. And a hip shot is a coordination skill divided by 4 rounded down. And fan firing has a base 1 for hit chance or the pistol skill. So in this case, with a fan firing, their pistol skills are both 3, so they have a base 3 on that. Okay, so hip shot for Jake here is going to be 18. Steady shot is going to be 9. And the careful shot, actually I'm reversing this. So 18, 9, and the hip shot is actually going to be 1/4. Going to be rounded down, which is going to be 4. And for Sam here, same thing, it's going to be 4, 10, because it's rounded up, and 19. Now we can get into the combat. So there's various things that will modify combat. Accuracy modifiers are based on range, whether the target's moving, whether the shooter's moving, whether they're wounded, the size of the target, and miscellaneous other modifiers. Firing 2 pistols at the same time is not a good idea. -6 to both. Hit chances. Whenever you roll a 20, depending on the type of weapon you're using, you roll for misfire. You may just miss altogether. The cartridge may just be a dud, or depending on the type of weapon, it may have an explosion or a jam. Okay, the shootout turn. So, character for each side rolls a die 6. So let's start with Jake. He rolls a 6. Sam rolls a 2, so Jake has initiative. The player on the side without initiative must announce what they're doing. So Sam is going to quick draw and do 3 hip fires. And as mentioned, there was 6 actions or 6 counters in a shootout turn. And a hip shot is a count of 2. So he can get 3 hip shots off in a shootout turn. A fast draw, if successful, has a count of 0. If he tries his fast draw and fails, it has 2 counts before he can try doing a fast draw again. So we'll see how that kind of plays out as I go through the turn. Okay, so as I said, Sam is going to do a fast draw and 3 hip shots for this shootout turn. Jake, who is declaring after Sam, says, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to do a fast draw and 3 hip shots as well. All the players on the side of the initiative must announce what they're doing, and then judge calls for actions being performed on the first count. So the first count is going to be the hip draws, or the fast draws, I mean. So let's go put our, actually I'm going to keep our counts down here. So count 1. We start with the fastest character, which is going to be Sam. Sam has a fast draw of 16. He successfully does his fast draw. Jake does his fast draw, and he rolls a 17. He fails. Oh no, fast draw 17. He makes it exactly. So they both manage to get their pistols out. So at count 2, they both fire. Again, Sam, with the faster coordination, gets to go first. I'm going to say they are at 18 feet apart. And if we look at the table with any hip shot, short range is going to be 6 yards, so 18 feet. Yes, I did that purposefully or intentionally. And so his base is going to be 4. He's adding 3 for his pistol skill, so that's going to be 7. Short range is going to be 0 for a modifier. They're not moving. They're both basically standing there trying to see who can drop the other one fastest first. Normal, their horses and people, or people and horses, are considered normal size, so they're 0. And we're not using scatter guns or shotguns or sniping or anything like that. So he has a base 7 for hitting. And we roll a 5. So Sam manages to shoot Jake. So what we do here is we roll location. Jake gets shot in the 17, the chest. And the fast draw revolver has a wound modifier of 0. Oh, sorry, in the weapon speed. That for speed modifiers for who gets to go first. So they both have very fast weapons, so that didn't make any changes there. So 17. Jake gets hit in the head, or chest, I mean. And then we roll a die 6. And because it's the chest or head, it's +1 to the die 6 roll. That's going to be a 5, so a serious wound. Now, serious wound is going to put Jake at a disadvantage, because that's going to be -4 on his roll. So Jake's already probably lost this battle at this point. So it's Jake's turn to shoot. He's got a 4 and a 3 pistol, so that's 7, but he's also -4, so he's 3 or less and he hits. And 18 is going to be a miss. On count 3, there's nothing happening. They're getting their second hip shots off, or ready to go off. On count 4, we have Sam firing again with a 7, and he misses. And Jake with a 3. Oh, he rolled a 1, so he hit. And again, we're doing the same thing. It's going to be hit location, 17. Wow, I'm consistent. There's a chest shot there. And a d6 +1. And that's going to be a mortal wound. So basically, Sam is dead unless he rolls a luck check with 5 or less. Sam does not succeed in a luck check, and he dies. So I guess, I've proven wrong here. I thought Jake was going to be at a disadvantage and dying very quickly, but turns out with a single shot, Jake took out Sam, and as he nurses his serious wound to the chest. And that was all in a matter of 4 seconds, I think that is. Well, a turn is 1 second. 6 counts in a 1 second turn. little split-second firing here. So anyways, like I said, I just wanted to do a quick video on Boot Hill, and in this case, the 3rd edition. And as you see, it's pretty quick to make up a character. A lot is left to the referee to determine kind of where they are, what sort of starting money these guys start with. A lot of the setting details and everything is left up to the referee to determine. I can't remember if there was any adventures that were published for the 3rd edition Boot Hill. I know for 2nd edition Boot Hill, there was Mad Mesa and Lost Conquistador Mine and a few others. Actually, I think there's now that I think about it, I think there's 2 or 3 adventures for the 3rd edition as well. I don't remember them offhand. But if you're interested, let me know what you think, and I may do some more combat or a quick adventure or something with Jake and Sam as they go out on some sort of adventure together and see what they can do. That's it for today, guys. So thanks for joining me. As usual, like, subscribe, and hit the little bell icon. And we'll see you next time.